Welcome to Designing with Purpose. This is a conversation about architecture, but more importantly, it's about the people and organizations that buildings are meant to serve. I am your host, Kyle Stewart. In each episode, I sit down with the leadership team at Thrive Architects to talk through the decisions, the challenges, and realities behind complex projects, from senior living and places of worship to commercial spaces and high-end residential projects. And so today in our episode number 3, I'm joined once again by firm principal Jeremy Bartlett and associate principal Dave Rashka. Good to see you guys once again. How are you?
Really good. Came back from the Wisconsin Assisted Living Association conference. Had a pretty good time, good turnout, pretty good engagement at our booth. Dave sat in on a couple session things. And
yeah, there was a lot of informational content there. I thought it was good.
Good. Glad to hear it. And that's a senior living specific conference, is that right?
It is, yeah. This year they had it up in the Wisconsin Dells, and yeah, it was a good time.
That's a great segue into what we'll be talking about today, because one of your primary niches is senior living projects. And so today we're going to discuss the 3 kind of critical questions that need to get answered, or the 3 primary categories of decisions if you're thinking about making a senior living or starting a senior living project. These are the critical things you need to think through before getting into that. But the first one I wanted to bring up with you guys is there's different models for operating a senior living facility, as I'm sure you're well aware. And so your operational model is going to impact the design that you choose for when they work with you as an architect. So can you walk us through how does the operational model determine the design elements and the process of working with you guys?
Yeah, staffing and, well, primarily staffing is really what drives it. Staff can only be spread out over the care for so many residents, and there's some magic numbers to that. And when we design, we like to at least design like larger campuses. We want to design them in pocket neighborhoods or in pockets or wings on a building so that we can take advantage of the efficiency that's needed. So you don't want to send staff running all around 3 ends of a building when they really need to stay like in one area to take care of residents. With that, it can lend itself well to kind of creating like separate households or identities throughout a building. So that's just one of the elements. There's quite a bit. I don't know if you.
No, and to add on to that a little bit. I mean, when we sit down with owners and clients, I mean, that's a discussion, right? Every organization has some nuance to how they typically would run facilities, or maybe they're new to it, so they're looking for input from us. But yeah, it comes down to how many beds per nurse or per wing, and then you get into some detail things that vary, like where do they do the charting? Is it mobile? Are they using laptops mostly, or do they need a desk in the hallway somewhere? There, a lot of little details, and every organization seems to have their own kind of fit of what works for them and how it flows. So it's kind of hearing our clients, and kind of working through what their best process is. I think to get the good solution.
Food is usually a big part of it too.
Yeah.
And so how they want to deliver food service. If we want to have a large dining area, or if we're going to have satellite areas, how the food actually gets delivered to campus, how it's prepared,
sure,
all of that. That also is a whole other layer to the operational impact, I guess, and where design goes.
Yeah, those are some big things to think through for sure. What about somebody who's maybe they want to integrate some kind of specific or specialized service into their facility, like a memory care wing, or maybe there's other specific services that you can give examples of? How does those types of things impact the design?
Yeah, memory care is incredibly. It seems like everyone's doing that right now. It's a high need, and as far as the design of it, everything down to the colors we use, the materials, finishes, how residents interact with that, how cues throughout a space to initiate memory. Really a fun thing I always like to talk about when we do design with clients is that there's a study that's shown that if you provide a visual cue from a person's bed at night to the bathroom, that it actually reduces the chances of incontinence issues. So there's a lot of layers to designing memory care specific beyond just the security and the obvious things.
Sure. So you guys, dive into those real specific details down to even creating visual cues like that that help care for the residents even better. Fantastic. So that's kind of one element, is figuring out how does your specific operational model impact the design. And then obviously, and that's goes along with caring for residents and all of that. But then there's also the staffing element. So how does a design impact the workflow of the staff?
Yeah, I mean, I think I briefly started to touch on that earlier. I think it comes down to charting locations. A lot of time if you've got limited staff, you want sight lines down the hallways so you can see when people are coming in and out of their rooms. How does the space flow? Does the staff have enough convenient storage spaces by the rooms, for linens or, laundry, all these different types of things. Med rooms, where the nurses keeping the medicine and how they getting it. How do they handle that? Do they have a centralized location? Do they have med carts they're rolling around? So I don't know. Again, a lot of these things they vary quite a bit from project to project, again, depending on how each client or operator, how they see the best way that their staff likes to handle it, or how their team typically runs their organization. So we try and offer up solutions and talk about different ways we've seen it done, and again, steer a path to a best fit for that particular project and client.
Yeah. Talk about it from, if I'm a owner operator, obviously I want to take care of my staff and make things efficient for them from a workflow standpoint, but what about just operational efficiency and from a dollars and cents perspective? Are there ways you can improve the design to save money ultimately for the owner operator by making it more efficient?
Yeah, I mean, I think we cued on that a little bit already when we were talking about like residents and designing areas specific to them and not having the staff running all over the building. We didn't touch on laundry. Laundry is a whole nother layer to this, right? So, you can set it up where you can be very efficient with laundry, or you can set up where you can be very inefficient with laundry. You can imagine gathering all the garments and beds and linens and bringing all that back to one centralized location, or having wings that have laundry on the wing, and then sending the staff out there to do that work. I mean, it depends on the size of campus, depends on a lot of variables, but we go through that again with clients and sort through what's the most efficient way to do it. And yeah, do we have a pretty good handle on one way is going to cost you more than another? Absolutely.
Okay.
But it's layered, and there's a lot to discuss, and it's not just hey, we're gonna meet for one time and figure this out. It's meetings and meetings to kind of work through a good process.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, there's just so many things that go into it, obviously, that takes time to figure all of that out. Finally, then we talked about obviously the design or the operational model, the staff workflow, and then the design's impact on actual residents' care, which you have touched on that a little bit, but I think too you have to think about the families of the residents, right? So you're
Exactly.
caring for the residents, but you're
Yep.
also welcoming them in their families. You want them to feel like, oh, this is a place I can send my loved one. So talk about how the design impacts that, and how you guys create an enhances that
Right.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
gonna let Dave hit this a little bit.
I think that, creating an environment that feels like home, I mean, I think setting up the views as you're coming through the space, but, there's a lot of things, and it's common in a lot of types of designs, but I think it's especially important in senior care. But we were always focused on how circulation works, how you're getting daylight into the spaces, how getting views of the outside. Maybe it's designing a courtyard, with all the rooms facing onto a green space that they can see. Again, it's the views and the environment. We want something that's peaceful, that's calming, that again, that feels kind of like home. We also spend a lot of time, I think, on amenity spaces, you know, common lounges or the dining spaces or activity rooms. These are all things that, at places the residents are going to be throughout the day, spaces they can use. So a lot of thought and care given to the design of those spaces and how they function and how we can maximize those spaces for the residents to give them, the nicest space we can.
We get asked a lot about trends, Kyle, and like I would say one of the big trends is keep everyone young would be where we're at now. And
Yeah.
what does that mean? That's real social engagement. That's really designing with purpose and intent to create like areas for physical fitness, areas for activity. Could be anything from pickleball to a fitness room or yoga,
Yoga, yeah.
theater areas, anything that engages and offers fitness, Uh,
A lot of
that's
social spaces too.
so
I mean,
yep.
I think that's a big thing is maybe it's a little
Socializing's huge.
instead of just like dining room, maybe it's more of like a bistro, and it's got set up where they can, have games going on, and for residents to interact with each other and more social environments. When families are there, they have a space where they can kind of go hang out. It's got more of like a club atmosphere or,
Yep.
um,
A bar area for
yeah,
when you want to catch a sporting event. I mean, we're doing all those things in our buildings, and everyone said, "Oh, that's a lot more like hospitality." Yeah, it is,
yeah,
but it's more like hospitality meets home like living meets how can we stay young and energetic? How can this
Hmm.
be a place that's fun to live in and not a place that I'm going to retire?
yeah,
So
Right.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal for us.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. And having walked through a couple of your facilities that you've designed, I mean, I can say that you guys have really worked in a lot of great social gathering spaces between bars, eating areas, places just to sit and relax, have a conversation, to exercise and fitness rooms and theaters and everything you just described. You've done a phenomenal job of working into those spaces, and that makes a huge difference to the residents and also, like we talked about, their families as well. And that obviously makes the owner operators a lot more successful too, because of what they're able to create and offer to the residents and the staff that work there as well. So, anything else you guys want to add? We've kind of touched on the three primary things to consider when you're getting into a senior living design, between your operational model, your staff workflow, residential care. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I mean, we covered a lot here in
yeah,
a short time. We're trying to pack a lot into these quick hit episodes. Would love for anyone if they have questions just to reach out. We're very approachable that way. I love to share our experiences. So that's something that's great about the conference. Anybody could just walk up and kind of share some of
yeah,
their things that they're going, that they're having in front of them.
yeah. Ask
Um,
questions.
so
Yeah,
so it was a lot of fun. So I wish I could keep that going every day.
Yeah. It'd be nice if people just walked up to you and started a conversation, but that's kind of the point of these podcasts too. It's a way of starting a conversation. And if you are early on in a project or thinking about one and you need help getting clear on these decisions that are going to impact the project the most, make sure you connect with the team at Thrive Architects, thrive-architects.com. They can call you directly at 833-380-6180. You got offices in Waukesha, Madison, and Appleton. Thanks for being here, you guys, and we will see you on the next episode.